Back with another episode of Pottawattamie County Roots. I am Todd Studer. Pottawattamie County Roots presented by Hoy Kilnosky Funeral Home, and we have a special guest in studio today. This gentleman I got to meet a few years ago at the Masonic Temple in the Council Bluffs. This is Fred Gach, and Fred is a longtime member of the Masons. How far back does your membership go?
1980, so I'm a 47-year member.
47 years, that probably feels like about maybe 10 years. Is that how that works?
Well, I don't know. It's been a long pull, but it's been a lot of fun and well worth it. I don't regret 1 minute of being a Mason.
What initially drew you to saying, okay, I like these Masonic principles and the teachings. Why is it that I want to be a Mason?
Well, when I was young, I always was intrigued by friends of mine whose fathers were Masons, but it was a fairly closed group at the time. I always wanted to join, but if you didn't have an affiliation, it was very difficult to do. So that was kind of sidelined for a lot of years. And then I worked with a guy that was a member of Cobia Lodge. I got to talking to him, and I asked him, to get me into the lodge. And at that time, you had to ask. They could not ask you to be a member.
Right.
So I did. I asked him, and he got me a petition. Cobia Lodge accepted me in 1980, and I've been there hanging around ever since.
I wanted to talk to you today about a lodge that no longer exists and was actually merged in with Cobia Lodge and Council Bluffs, but this is Amber Lodge, and many people have driven past a building out there on Highway 6 and have no idea what that building is. And the building is still there.
The building is still there, and it's got quite a history that I was unaware of. I was a dual member of Cobia and Amber Lodge, and when you asked me to do this, I said, well, I'm going to have to do some research. I don't know that much about the background. I knew that it was over 100 years old. So one of the old timers told me that when they merged with Cobia, there was a time capsule taken out of the building. This was in 1983. So I went to the archives, which are held above the Masonic Lodge over on 6th and Willow, and I found the time capsule. And it was a treasure trove of information on Amber Lodge. And I discovered that the lodge was basically joined at the hip with the township of Quick, Iowa.
Quick, Iowa, which is not a town that I know of on the map.
I didn't know of it either until I joined Amber. And then I thought it was just maybe, one of the early members of the lodge. Well, what I found out was there was two brothers that came to the area in the mid-1870s, Elias Quick and his brother D.S. Quick. And they were farming about 5 or 6 miles east of Council Bluffs. And by 1898, Elias Quick had developed an interest in merchandising and thought he would like to open a store. He formed a corporation in 1898 and indeed opened a store in what is now Quick, Iowa. It was it would be located at County Road L52 and Highway 6.
Is that not the road that leads over to McClellan?
Yes, it does. Okay. Often called the McClellan Road.
Right.
It was the original building was built right there, and it was, I suppose, general merchandise at the time, maybe clothing and people selling eggs or something like that.
Right.
You got to remember the time frame. Well, about this same time that he built the store, there were several Masons already living in the area, and for lack of a lodge, they attended Coral Lodge number 430 in Carson, which is a 17-mile ride by horse and buggy.
And in the late 1800s, nobody's getting in the shuttle or a bus to run over.
No, and the Greyhound wasn't going there for sure.
It wasn't.
No Ubers.
No.
But so they made that 17-mile trek in a horse and buggy, and there was one gentleman by the name of D.S. Perry, and he was very active in Coral Lodge, lived near Quick, or what would soon be Quick. And he was raised in Coral Lodge as a Mason in 1891, served as master in 1896, 97, and 98. And he and the other Masons entered into an arrangement to use the upstairs of the building that Elias Quick had put up as a lodge or a meeting place. It wasn't officially a lodge yet. And in 1899, they petitioned the Grand Lodge of Iowa for dispensation to begin a lodge. For whatever reason, it was denied.
Really?
Or actually, it wasn't denied. It was just not done.
Okay.
It was just like dormant. So in 1900, they renewed the petition, and it was granted. Dispensation was given by the Grand Lodge of Iowa on July 1st of 1900 to form a lodge, and D.S. Perry was appointed as the first master.
Now, when you say master, for those that don't know, this is sort of the guy in charge for the year,
basically,
of that lodge. So, because we all need kind of a hierarchy and a structure, and it's good to have leadership, and he's just the main leader.
Basically, yeah. He would be like a president.
Yeah.
You know, a chairman or whatever. Right. But in the Masonic terms, it's called the worshipful master, which dates way back to the early Stone Age times.
Right.
That's when the ancient stone builders. Worshipful master was a term used in the courts at the time as a respected person.
Right, kind of like your highness or that type of thing for a king. But this was more of you might call a judge that.
That's right.
That's right. You know, during that time, and that's where the term comes from.
Right. So they were granted, and the first official meeting was held July 21st of 1901. And at that meeting, D.S. Perry was again elected worshipful master, which he served in 1901, 02, and 03 as master of the lodge. And he passed away in 1904. And at that time, his son became the next master. In the meantime, when they started out, there was 15 original members. 13 of them came from Coral Lodge 430.
So they actually came over from, well, they were members in Carson.
They were in Carson, traveling the distance, and this just...
Oh, this was closer to home for them.
Yes,
So
basically that was the thinking of it.
Yeah.
And they were still meeting in the upstairs. I carried wood up there for heat, used gas lamps. They set their initiation fee at $20, and annual dues were $3. And if you think about $20 at the time, that was a pretty good chunk of change in 1901.
Oh, yes, it was. It took you many days to earn that money.
Yeah, so I don't understand the thinking of that, if they were trying to make it an elite organization or what their thinking might have been, because $20 at the time would take most people right out of the market. Yeah, I would think. But for whatever reason, they did that. And in 1909, the post office that was put into Quick and the store both moved to McClellan. The reason for that was when the railroad came through, they bypassed Quick and went through McClellan. Yeah, and we've heard stories that when that happened, towns that were not on the railroad back then, they just ceased to exist. And basically that's what happened to Quick. So the store went with the post office up to McClellan, and that prompted the Masons in the area to buy the building from Elias Quick. So then they were able to use top and bottom. And that building stood there until 1981, I think, maybe, or 82 when they tore it down. And this was reasonably close to that junction, Highway 6 and L52. It was right there. Yeah. It was actually closer to L52 than 6, but it was right there on that corner. And so the Masons took that building over, and in 1919, they had pushed it up to 100 members, and which is even a lot under modern standards. So they were 100 members in 1919. In 1920, they brought in 17 members in that 1 year. And the thing that was really ironic about it was on one particular afternoon, they had a brother by the name of Karl Mark, and they did a third degree, Master Mason's degree, on him and his 3 sons all on the same day.
Wow.
I don't know. I've been a Mason, as you know, for a long time.
Right.
I've never heard of such a thing. That may be a record in Iowa.
Well, that would also take a while.
It would take a long while. And as you know, after a third degree is done, they usually have a dinner or something.
Right.
Had to be quite a feed. So yeah, that was kind of something that stood out to me as a real landmark for Amber Lodge. So moving on, 1931, they reached the highest membership that they ever had, 162. And
well, and also think about this. You're talking about a very rural area. This is not, Council Bluffs didn't have the population that it does now. And, there were lodges in Council Bluffs, so you weren't pulling from there. These are all rural people.
That's right.
How many were out there? I would say the percentage of population of men that were Masons had to have been pretty high.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, 162 was, at that time, had to be probably double the size of McClellan in population. Yes, it's phenomenal. Even by today's standards, very few lodges have 160 people in the state of Iowa. So, it was. They had quite a history going out there, and then things kind of dropped off significantly during the Depression, and it affected everybody. No money, no lodge. Right. So as time moved on, the building deteriorated. By 1980, now your building's almost 100 years old. And the local Masons out there started looking at that and thinking, well, perhaps we could build a new one. And so they created a committee. And I hope I do this justice. They created a committee to look into what it would cost to erect a new lodge. The committee members were Bob Dose, and these are names that are still in the community. Bob Dose, Charlie Caldwell, Bill Witt, Jolene Caldwell, Bonnie Tarks, and Bill Taylor, who at that time was Worshipful Master. So those people formed the committee and thought, yes, this could be done. It could be a heavy load, a heavy lift, but they felt they could do it. So they went out and got donations, and a pickup basketball game came up with $40,000 to build a building. And the building was designed by Charlie Caldwell and Bill Witt, and they proceeded. They tell me that a lot of the materials were donated by a brother Mason that either worked or owned Trainer Hardware. But basically all the labor was the Masons themselves and the Eastern Star ladies. They put it together, and it was finished in May of 1983. And in June of 1983, the Grand Master of Iowa, at that time, Norval Marks, came to town and did a cornerstone laying out there at Quick, and put the time capsule in, which we're getting all the information from right now. So that's kind of the history up till the new lodge was built. In 1989, Agate Lodge and Neola merged into Amber Lodge. The ironic thing about that was, in 1989 was the year that Agate Lodge turned 100 years old.
Across rural Pottawattamie County, strong communities grow from strong local relationships. Avila Bank is here for the families, farms, and small businesses that keep Southwest Iowa moving. From personal and business banking to agricultural loans for land, equipment, livestock, and operating needs, Avela offers solutions backed by local service. Connect with the Avela Bank team in Council Bluffs or visit avela.bank. Avela Bank, local people serving local needs. Member FDIC. Are you looking to grow your business or bring new jobs and investments to Southwest Iowa? Advance Southwest Iowa Corporation is the economic development organization for all of Pottawattamie County. Advance connects entrepreneurs, innovators, and established companies with resources, incentives, and strategic support to launch, expand, and thrive right here in our region. From site development to small business programs and community partnerships, Advance Southwest Iowa helps build a stronger local economy. Visit advancesouthwestiowa.com to learn more and get involved. If you have a leak, a clogged drain, or even if you're planning a big remodel, Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. With fast, reliable service and expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. They're locally owned and trusted and take pride in doing the job right the first time. Residential or commercial, big or small, when plumbing problems strike, they're the ones to call. Visit waldsteinplumbing.com.
So,
Same thing with Amber.
yep, pretty
as
much.
well. Yeah.
Yep. So Amber Lodge then merged with Cobia in September of 2020. And that made Cobia one of the top 5 lodges in the country in membership, bringing those brothers in. But I look back when I was reading through this stuff, the families, the Johnson family, 5 generations of Masons out there, the Rodenbergs, 3 or 4, Kais. There's a lot of them that have been in way back, members of that lodge. So when we completed the merger of Amber into Cobia, the assets of Amber Lodge were put into a fund called the Amber Fund at Cobia, and it was earmarked for community betterment in the rural communities. The reason being, Amber Lodge was, as you said before, all rural people, farmers and folks that commuted. But so they earmarked those funds for community betterment, things we could do out in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And we're involved in one right now with Project Lifesaver that we're doing. And
which we're taking to Underwood.
Yes.
So again, just exactly what you're talking about, Fred, is that ongoing commitment to the more rural areas around the county continues.
Yes.
From this.
It continues through the efforts of Amber Lodge. And I think that, in my mind, it's a tribute and an honor to the guys that built the new building and, of course, the ones that first established Amber Lodge. So it's kind of a payback for all their work. It's not done in vain. It's remembered. And I feel good about that it's money spent in the rural communities. And as you say, we chose Underwood to do the event because it's a rural city and kind of an area in the center of what used to be the Agate and Amber Lodges.
Well, we're going to talk later this week about Project Lifesaver. We've got some folks coming in, so we hope it's a big event that's coming up on the 25th of this month at Friends Hideaway there in Underwood. And I think that particular project, and you tie that all in with the history of Amber Lodge and now continuing on through Cobia in Council Bluffs, to me, that's what being a Mason is. And that's what it should be, is we're helping the community. We're helping those in the community, which is what this is about. And that's one of the reasons why I felt drawn to this organization, because, you know, when I was down there in that lodge, first couple of times I was in there, I wasn't a member, but I can see just this common thread through all of the men that were helping here, and like to tease each other, give each other a hard time, but there was a strength and there was integrity that just kind of flowed through everything, and that continues.
It does, and I think the key word there is integrity. But you feel different about yourself when you're a Mason. Anyway, I always have. And I can tell you that with the merger of Amber and Cobia, that was in 2020, and since then, 3 members of Amber Lodge have been masters at Cobia, and one is on Grand Lodge right now, the Grand Lodge of Iowa, and 2 are serving as officers at Cobia 631 as we speak. So there's a camaraderie there amongst them that sometimes it doesn't manifest itself until something happens.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they're there for you. And it's a great organization. It's I've never regretted it one moment.
Well, as an example, and this is the kind of thing that still gets me kind of emotional about it, because we've talked many times about the break-in that I had here at the studios and lost everything. And I know that you, Fred, were very instrumental in this, that just as soon as you found out, Lodge came together. So, all right, what can we do? How can we help keep Todd, who is a member of Cobia, how can we keep him working, keep him still producing the content? And you guys were ready to jump into action very, very quickly. And fortunately, everything came back, like 30 hours later from the time it was stolen. I had everything back in my possession. But you had used that time to actually have a serious call to action. And even though it wasn't necessary, in the end, we didn't need it. Just the fact that all of that was happening gave me such a feeling of I know that I've got other men around here that have my back. And I knew that down to my core. Having the ideas and the principles is one thing, but when you see it actually put into action, now you've gone out of the possibility area and this is real. And I got to experience that. And I'm incredibly grateful.
I remember it well, and I've been there long enough that I didn't think it was a big deal because this is what we do. I found out about that incident late on Friday night, prior to our calling you. Saturday morning, I got a call, got a hold of a couple of gentlemen, including the master. Said, "Hey, we got a problem with one of the brothers, Todd Studer, and we need to get him back on the air by Monday morning." And we'll have to make some phone calls here. So, the phone blew up. Everybody had an idea and we were ready to go. There was no question we were going to do it. It's just how soon we could get it done. So, yeah, and it's just, and they would do that for any brother. That's the way it is. And sometimes it's in times that we don't want to think about, really difficult situations, but we do what we can do. And it is a brotherhood.
It is.
Service Master Restore by Schmader knows it can be hard to get things back to normal when you've suffered serious property damage due to flooding, fire, or smoke, and that can oftentimes lead to mold, and you may be left with all sorts of questions about how to get your home or business back to normal. It's easy. You give Cindy Schmader a call with Service Master Restore by Schmader. Her phone number, 402-339-9911. On Pottawattamie County Roots, we explore the places that make our region home and the people who keep them connected. That is why we are proud to feature Marnie Elkhorn Communications, your local communications provider serving Marnie, Elkhorn, Walnut, Avoca, and other southwest Iowa towns with high-speed fiber internet, reliable phone service, and TV options built for rural living. With real local support and unlimited data plans, you get speeds up to 1 gig to work, stream, and stay in touch with family and neighbors. Visit metc.net to learn more and get connected today.
And it goes past just our own lodge. I know that if I'm out traveling somewhere and something happens and I have an emergency, I can find out where there's a lodge, get a hold of somebody, and I know that without question, I've got assistance right there.
Oh, yeah. And we've had calls at our lodge. I can remember one vividly. A man from Minnesota was down here and blew 2 tires, had no credit card or anything like that. He got a hold of me through a funeral home here, and he was stranded. And I said, he gave me his home lodge up in Minnesota and all this stuff, and I verified he was a Mason. And I says, I happen to know somebody. This isn't the tire business. You go down there and get what you need, and you can send us a check when you get back home. And he did. He got his tires. A couple of weeks later, here comes the money in a $100 bill. So, it's the way things are.
Well, it's the way things used to be, and it's the way things still ought to be. I mean, this used to just be natural for folks, that they looked out for one another and they helped one another. And inside of the Masons, that continues. And I think the Masons were always a big part of it, going back through history.
Well, you're absolutely right. We're living in a country right now that is so divided in so many different ways. But when you become a Mason, we don't care who you are. Your status in the community means nothing, really. It goes back to integrity. Creed, color, religion, doesn't matter. We have people that are Muslims. We have people that are all the different religions. Mm-hmm. They join, and that's it. Basically, if you believe in a supreme being, you can be a Mason. And I think we keep a pretty good crew of folks around, and we want to do more in the community. We try to do as much as we can, and to expose it, give us exposure to the public. But it's a great organization, and young men ought to consider looking at it. You won't regret it.
Yeah, I know I haven't since joining. We just got a couple of minutes left here, Fred, but I wanted to ask you, as you take a look now at the projects that's going on with Cobia and how we are out in the community and with Project Lifesaver, or many people have seen us sitting there at the farmer's market selling ice cream bars and raising money for Burgers for Blue and that type of thing. Looking at your entire history as a Mason, how does it feel to see these types of things happening right now, today, current date, inside of the lodge?
Well, I think Cobia is doing more right now than we've ever done. And I give credit to the core members of Cobia Lodge. They're very faithful. They want to do more. We'll take on as much as we can. And right now we're doing just about every other month. We've got some community project going on. And we're planning on another one we're hoping to do in February, again in conjunction with Project Lifesaver. But we've worked with Muddy Paws. We've our Winterfest out here with the lighting of the lights in the park. That's free to anyone that wants to come. Entertainment from the shrine. We got free cookies, hot chocolate, hot cider. That'll be coming up in November.
That'll be here before you know it. Yeah.
Yes, it certainly will.
Right.
But no, we are very active, and we're looking to do a little bit more. We believe in community service. That is one of the tenets of Freemasonry, charity and helping out in the community. So as I say, we try to do as much as we can, and we would do more if need be. And we found a cause, care and share. We support that. There's a myriad of things we get involved in, and many times we do it anonymously. Yeah. And people don't even know it's the Masons doing it. So, and we're good with that.
Yeah.
It's
well, Fred, I'm grateful for the history lesson today. It's fascinating stuff, and I'm glad that we have that information to be able to store and know we can look back at our roots at where things came from, because I think that's important. All right, we thank you very much, Fred Gasch with Cobia Lodge 631 in Council Bluffs. We also thank you for watching this episode of Pottawattamie County Roots, presented by Hoy Kilnosky Funeral Home. My name is Todd Studer, and we'll see you next time.